Hey, this is Chris Grenier with AmericaHomes, and I want to let you know I received your email yesterday, and part of my delay in responding to you. However, there were quite a few good questions in here, so I wanted to send you an email, a video message that actually goes over your questions a little bit more personally and a little bit more efficiently than just emailing back and forth. So, on the email, you basically stated that you're not too familiar with Orlando in the area. Obviously, if you've pretty much been anywhere in a established nation, that you've certainly heard of Walt Disney World and other attractions, maybe even around Orlando, such as Universal Studios, SeaWorld, Old Town Kissimmee, all of the hotels and golf courses here. Well, Orlando is the #1 tourist attraction in the entire world. There is millions upon millions of people every single year visiting Orlando from every single corner of the world. Fortunately, it doesn't matter if you're in China, if you're in the UK, or if you're in Australia, people are coming to America, and they're coming specifically to Orlando because it's for every age group, whether it's young children, teenagers. Obviously many adults come for the conventions and all of the new hotels and restaurants in this area. So one of the reasons why we chose Orlando for our investment property locations is because of obviously the tourist destination, but also Orlando is a young city. It's only been since about 1970, 1975 since Orlando has really been growing exponentially, because before then it was just a small town, nowhere in America particularly special city, because there was nothing dramatic here. So after Walt Disney was built and the enormous success that it has, it really drawn an entire crowd. And since then, Walt Disney World itself employs over 60,000 people a year on a regular basis. But then also, when you factor in all of the other things that surround such a massive tourist spot like that, when your hotels, your restaurants, your other attractions, your transportation, the international airport. There's actually 2 international airports in this area. So while that is a large section, there's, like any other city, it's growing very well with a new medical district. There's 3 brand new hospitals in Orlando, all very highly rated and respected. There are new schools going up every single year. Fortunately, with the increased population of people moving here, there's obviously an increased demand for good schools, and the resources that go along with more people. Obviously, your hospitals, your fire stations, your policemen, your public transportation. So that is a large demographic of people who are our average tenants who stay in the properties, and they rent them out because they can rent a beautiful 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, single-family home for $900 to $1,000 a month, which is much more efficient than living in a small apartment. So moving on to your question specifically, who manages the property and the duration? So the properties we work with are located in Orlando, and the property management company that we use is called Rentals Orlando. Now, they specialize in foreign investors. 99% of their clientele are based overseas. Like I mentioned, they're either in the UK, they're in Ireland, Spain, Australia, China, Singapore, etc. So they understand, and they certainly accommodate specifically to the foreign and national investor. Now, the duration of the leases is 12 months. That's the standard 12-month lease agreement in Orlando and the surrounding areas. So right when a contract's signed and a tenant is placed, they're in there for a minimum of 12 months. 80% of the time, they're extending for more than 12 months, and our average length of stay per tenant is 36 months. So you essentially have 3 years of rental income without any disruptions. The annual management charges was your next question, and that is 10% of rental income, which is pretty much the standard throughout the entire country. 10%, so for instance, obviously, if your rental income is $1,000 a month, then the property management company gets $100 a month, which can be taken directly out of your rental income, so it doesn't actually cost you anything out of pocket from your end. It's only money coming in. How long before refurbishment is required, assuming it's currently sold as refurbished? So when a tenant moves into the property, it is grade A renovated, meaning Obviously, there's new paint, new carpets, new baseboards, new fixtures, the electrical and the plumbing was updated. The renovations that are undertaken when a property is in foreclosure are far greater than the typical cosmetic renovations that you would have to do after a tenant's been in place for maybe 3 to 5 years, which is your basic, replacing the carpet, painting the interior, maybe sprucing up the landscaping. And that would be only something that would have to be done every 2 to 4 years, depending on how long the tenant is in place. And the tenant actually leaves a 1 month security deposit, so that would pay for 90% of the renovations. Let's just say, for instance, the typical house, 1,400 square feet, it will cost roughly $1,500 to $2,000 to put brand new carpet and paint the interior of the property and really make it feel new again. Your next question, what help is given when it comes to selling in, say, the next 3 to 5 years? Fortunately, we are a licensed real estate brokerage, so we can sell properties for anybody in the world if it is in Florida. So if in 3 to 5 years you wish to sell your property, we are more than willing and excited to do that for you as well too. For instance, most of our clients who bought their properties in 2009 and 2010 at the very bottom of the market, they really achieved a phenomenal deal because they bought at the absolute lowest point. So now we have quite a few selling today for 15 to 20% higher than what they paid for. So they got 2 to 3 years of positive cash flow, amounting to about $10,000 a year net, plus another 15 or so percent on the actual price that they purchased it at. So if they bought a property for $80,000, for the past 3 years, they got almost $30,000 in rental income, and now they're selling it for anywhere from $89,000 to $95,000. So that's a quick $40,000 plus profit in a matter of 3 years. And the tax issues, which is your next question, really kind of leads into that statement as well. So you have two different taxes that you have to worry about in America. One is your income tax, and the other is your property tax. Your property taxes are paid for every single year on any piece of property in this country. And those are roughly about 1% of the property value. So let's just say, for instance, if you buy a property for $90,000 to $100,000, you're going to estimate your taxes to be around $1,000 a year. That's just paid once a year between November and April, and that's it. Your income tax is based upon the amount of net income that you receive. Now, if you only own 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 properties, the amount of income that you're going to receive doesn't break the tax threshold that you'll actually have to owe money on that income. And then if you were to sell the property, you would have to pay what's called a capital gains tax, which is 15% on your profit. So let's say, for instance, if you bought a property for $100,000 and you sell it in 5 years for $130,000, you would have to pay a 15% capital gains tax on that $30,000 profit. However, on the first $15,000, it's only 5%. So it changes actually quite often based mostly political reasons, whether or not it's a presidential year election or who's in Congress. But for right now, you can pretty much assume that it's going to stay at a 15% capital depreciation tax. And finally, one of the other things that I would like to mention in there is the ease of purchase. Even though it wasn't one of your direct questions, what we do is our buying process over here, specifically with my company, AmericaHomes, it's much more simple and straightforward than what you might be used to in the UK or Spain or different parts of Europe. It's a simple one-page reservation and deposit form. Our properties require a $5,000 deposit that goes directly to the title companies, the solicitors who procure the contract of the sale of the property. And then you would have a 9 to 10 page property purchase contract that I just mentioned, which is very straightforward. Basically goes over your rights as an owner and as a purchaser. And I'm a licensed real estate agent as well too. And we are a fully licensed real estate brokerage, so we can go over that with you very, very simply, explain everything to you so you wouldn't have any further questions. And then finally, when you set a closing date on the property, roughly 3 weeks out, then you would just finish the wire transfer of the balance of the property, and you would receive what's called the closing documents, which basically looks like a balance sheet. You have exact where all the monies are going in terms of certain funds are dedicated to the title company for procuring the sale, the title transfer, the stamp duty fees, the county fees. And then you will also just see the final closing package, which is about $3,500 on the property price. So that $3,500 covers all of your legal expenses, your solicitor's fees, your transaction fee. So essentially, if you buy a $100,000 property, $103,500 is your complete finalized purchase price, and then you can finish the property purchase in anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. You know, the quicker the better most of the time, because our properties have tenants in place, so you receive cash flow from day one. And I think that pretty much sums it up. One other thing I should mention too is if you do not have a U.S. bank account already, then the property management company or myself, we can assist you in opening up a U.S. bank account to put your funds in every single month from your rental income rather than international wire fees, because obviously those get quite expensive. So you can deposit the funds in your account for free. You'll have a debit card that you can use at your expense, you know, anywhere in the world that accepts Visa or MasterCard or whatever it is specifically. And then you can, you know, have access to your money just as easily as any other bank. So I hope this answers more than the questions that you actually had originally. So if you have any more, please email me back, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if I don't speak to you before then, I hope you have a great Christmas and holiday time. Take care.